Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Western Media Podcast Network. Back to the Frame Rate, where we watch and discuss films on VOD and streaming platforms for your entertainment. I am your host, Nathan Shore, and I am here with Ellie Escobar, Sam Cole, and gracing us with her presence. She is the heiress to the maple syrup empire. Please welcome the newest member of Back to the Frame Rate, Brianna Butterworth.
Hi. I'm happy to be here. I wish I had all that syrup money. Oh my God.
Hello, Sam and Ellie. Welcome.
Welcome. Good
Hi.
to see you. Good to be here. Welcome, B.
Hello.
So we're here. We're back, and I'm guessing our huge subscriber base is wondering, where has Back to the Frame Rate been for the last 2 months? Well, we took a little hiatus and we're back. We took, I kind of had to take a little break just to do some summer projects, enjoy the good weather, some trips and stuff. But I am excited to be back here and watch some movies with you guys and share them with our audience. So, yeah, it's wonderful seeing everyone again. And also to expand the podcast family to our newest member. I think Brianna, or we may refer to you as B on the show every once in a while, but I would love for you to just give us a little introduction to yourself. Where does thou art hail? Is that how you put it? And tell us a bit about yourself. You do not have any relation to the maple syrup empire. That was a joke that I'm sure you're very tired of, but I just wanted to
I never get tired of it. And I think that's definitely how you asked that question. I think you nailed it. Yeah, I am down here in Cohasset and we met in Rhode Island and that was fun. But now I have no expertise on films, just opinions, lots of opinions, excited to share them.
All right.
But quick question, do you prefer B or Brianna? Because I want to make sure I get that right. I don't want to be the annoying guy that says a nickname that for a year you hold a grudge and then you're like, you know what, Sam? I don't like being called.
You can use either. I don't mind when people use my government name. I shortened it to B just because I don't like when people take the artistic liberty of Brie, like the cheese.
Gotcha.
But B like the bumblebee is fine, or Brianna is fine.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Thanks.
I was curious. Yeah.
So I'm just going to explain just quickly, just a little bit of a format change we're going to take here. As you know, if you've been listening to our show, we have been mostly reviewing new releases that have hit the theater. We are going to do a little bit of a format change. We are not going to be doing new releases going forward. We are going to be doing some really fun retrospectives of directors, theme months, all sorts of fun, I'd say, films of years past. And I think this is going to be a really, really fun way moving forward with the show. And I'm really excited about it. I'm just going to leave it at that. But where we left off, if you recall, we started in the spring a retrospective series for Steven Spielberg. And this stemmed out of our little Oscar wager thing that I won. I like to remind our co-host and the audience that I did win that. I do that frequently. But as a result, I picked the movie Always, which is Ellie's all-time favorite movie, as we know. And this actually gave us the idea, well, we should do a Steven Spielberg retrospective, which led us to also review War of the Worlds. And we also picked 3 more movies that we wanted to add to this series of films, which included what we're going to watch today, review today, Amistad, and also what we're going to review on the next episode, Duel, and eventually right after that, Empire of the Sun. So this is really exciting that we are going to wrap up our Steven Spielberg retrospective, and that's kind of how we're going to approach our podcast going forward. Retrospective series for actors, directors, and theme months, things like that. So that's really exciting. But
we're not going to include Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
We may get there.
Oh man,
we may get there. All 5 Indiana Jones movies. That'd be cool someday. But there's a lot of movies out there to talk about. So why don't we get?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Why don't we get to the movie we're going to be talking about this week? Sam, what are we watching this week?
This week, we are watching Amistad, which came out at an interesting time in Steven Spielberg's career. He had one of perhaps the best year of his career in 1993 with Jurassic Park that summer and Schindler's List, which came out in December, winning Best Picture and being a box office hit. He actually, after that 1-2 punch at the box office, he took a 3-year or 2.5-year hiatus. And then in 1997, almost following the same format with a blockbuster in the summer and the historical drama in the fall, he actually did The Lost World, June 1997, followed that with Amistad, which did solidly well. It had a budget of $39 million and it made box office of $58 million. It came out on December 25th, 1997. Got interesting reviews, but in some ways was overlooked. As we all know, at that time, there was a different movie that was sailing into the hearts of the American people, about a big ship that was sinking into the ocean and something about a diamond, or I can't remember. But so that's when Amistad came out, and that's sort of the context of its the time period we're talking about here, without getting into the movie itself, of course, which we'll be discussing soon.
They were first detained by officers of a survey brig off the coast of Long Island. Can only assume that the charge is murder.
We do hereby claim salvage on the high seas of the Spanish ship La Amistad and all her cargo.
Your Honor,
Here are the true owners of these slaves.
These slaves, Your Honor, are by rights the property of Spain.
You and this young so-called lawyer have proven you know what they are. They're Africans. Congratulations. What you don't know is who they are.
This could take us all one long step closer to civil war.
immediately surrender these goods!
Our president has appealed the decision to our Supreme...
That was from the trailer of Amistad, and let's get into our thoughts on the film. Who would like to begin? And unlike what we've done before, this is a 26-year-old film, I think. So we are not going to worry about spoilers for anything like this. So let's get right into it. Who wants to jump in?
Sam.
I knew that was going to happen. It's like the default. You guys always like throw me to the wolves. It's fine. I'm not complaining. So I would say, in terms of just the film itself, reviewing it as like the quality of a film without really getting into the historical accuracies or inaccuracies or sort of implications and very serious issues of race, just talking about the film itself, technically, I enjoy this film. I think like Janusz Kaminski's cinematography is amazing. I love the revolt on the Amistad, the way the film opens. I think that scene is really powerful. I like the way Spielberg shoots a lot of stuff. I would say my main complaint towards this film, just in terms of pacing and structure, is I just find the story is very clear cut, in terms of like narrative and following what happens to them and they're captured and the trial. I find the midsection of the film somewhat sleepy. I don't know if that's the right word, a little like myopic, like it's good, but I find the movie's energy level for some reason after they're captured, it feels a bit more like stoic and leaden than some Spielberg films. Another one that it's close to is Lincoln, which came out years later, that I actually think is a much better film in terms of just pacing, editing, and dialogue. So I would say overall, and we'll get into scenes later, but I thought I really enjoyed it. I just think it is a bit uneven. And I think like Jimon Hansu is like, his performance is amazing. His acting is incredible. I like a lot of the scenes, interactions. I just feel some moments of the movie lands more than others. And there's some, I got to point out one, there is a moment in the middle towards the like last third of the movie where they're in court and he's listening to people and he's figuring out English words. And Hansu like gets up and he's like yells like, give us free at the top of his lungs. And for me, I'm a huge fan of John Williams, but there's something about the like almost kind of sanctimonious, upbeat, like religious music there, where it kind of Disneyifies it a little bit. And the result, there's this weird, it feels unintentionally saccharine or something, even though I really understand what the scene is going for and the implications. And it's like very dramatic, but it just, for me, that moment misses the beat and makes me feel strangely uncomfortable, but not in a good way, not in a way that I should. More like, ooh, that was kind of awkward. And the movie has some moments like that, but I do like this final Supreme Court is great. The ending is very powerful. So for me, overall, I would give it like 3, maybe 3.5 stars. Like I'm positive, because I always like Spielberg movies, and there's a lot of cinematically cool stuff. There's just a weird muted effect to me, where even in the courtroom, I feel like in real life that they would talk. There's just moments where there's like a lot of dramatic pause and moments, and some of them just have a little bit of artifice to me. But the good outweighs the bad. There's a lot that's really good that isn't like that. So overall, cautiously positive, I would say.
Okay.
That's just 3. Damn, that's low.
3.5.
3. Oh,
3.5.
Excuse me. 3.5. Okay.
All right.
Out of 10 or out of 5?
Out of 5. It's good. I like it. It's good, but it's not. I personally think that like Lincoln is a masterpiece of Spielberg's. There's just something about the pacing, and it has nothing to do with like a preference on subject matter or anything like that. I just feel that movie moves better. This movie is like, it's really good, and then it slows down, and it's really good. And I like dialogue, slow-paced films. I don't need like, attention fireworks in my face all the time. There's just a pacing to this movie that is good, and then it's good. And I like Matthew McConaughey a lot. I think he's a great actor. I love him in Interstellar. I've seen him do great performances. His performance in this movie is fine, but he seems kind of like a 20th century dude that's like implanted in this time period, because he was like an actor of the moment, like a young upcoming stars. And I'm like, was he the right casting?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. But I like Matthew McConaughey. I just was like, it doesn't quite. There's moments in this movie that don't quite land, even though it's epic. I mean, it's a drama. Serious.
Well, I think they said, hey, you were awesome in A Time to Kill. Let's just take this guy and put him in this movie 100 years earlier and do the same thing again.
He feels planted. It feels like he like showed up. They like threw a wig on. They put a hat. They're like, okay, it's 1839. Go. And he's like, all right. Okay. It's like.
All right. Ellie, would you like to share your thoughts?
So for me, yes, it kind of dragged. The music was fine for me. I like the pauses. I think they're important, but overall, for me, the film was more of a. Is this a true film? Like this is a true story?
Based on a true story is how I would put it. If you were
inspired by a true story.
Okay.
Creative liberties.
So it didn't start the Civil War like they said in the movie, right? So
no.
So that's it.
No, the Civil War was like 20 years later.
There's not a lot of women there. There's not a lot of women in the film, except for the women that you see like with the naked bodies. Okay. It's more of a.
You got Anna Paquin, right? Like jumping on a bed. There you go.
Okay, no. So there's not a lot of women. It's a very manly film. So a lot of manly film. A lot of times I got lost in the dialogue. It was just rambling, and I just felt like, okay, whatever. So let me see. It's got a bit of a history style to the film, but so I noticed a lot of actors were made older because they weren't really old at that point in 1997, right? But they were made old by the makeup and prosthetics. Let me say prosthetics. Is that right? Okay. So what else? Okay, I have to say, and I told Carlos this because we watched the film together. Because he's actually doing that. He's watching films by directors, and it just happened that he happened to have been watching. He's watching all of the Spielberg's films right now. So he saw me watching, and he goes, "Wait, what are you watching?" And he goes, "Who's this by?" I'm like, "Spielberg." Wow, I don't know about this film. So we watched together, and I told Carlos, "Okay, this dark man, their bodies are like just chisel, like so muscular. I know that probably the only thing I noticed that attracted me to the movie is that like sexist. I don't care. So anyway, I really don't care. I don't care. So I'm gonna say it because they're really beautiful men in this film. And the oil that they put on them to sell them, it's like. But what's really sad, aside the fact that I was admiring their physique, is that this is real. There's thing about Spielberg is he shows it like it is. And I like that about Spielberg. Like I know Nolan's the GOAT for me. He's the GOAT, but Spielberg is like the second GOAT. And and to me, it's like this is really how it was in those boats. This women and children and men were put in those boats into that atmosphere, and they were for days stuck in that lower level, bathed in their own throw up. And it was just the most horrible conditions. And to think that this is like the other humans can do this to other humans, it's just like it just blows my mind that we had a period in our time when this happened, and that grosses me out that humanity can be so harsh. But at the end of the day, when the film, when they are freed and whatnot, that was great. I learned about some presidents of the United States. I don't really know my presidents. I actually learned everything there is to know about the presidents and everything because I had to get my citizenship. And that's the only time I had to answer 100 questions about the United States articles and in the whatever. And so, but don't ask me again because I don't know it. But I knew it then.
I couldn't pass that test.
Don't tell me. I know you have to pass it or you can't become a citizen. So
I couldn't pass it.
I was like, I knew everything, but except for I don't really know all the presidents, but I know there's a bunch of them.
I couldn't name half of them, I'm sure.
Okay, so I did go to the tomb of Quincy, the dude there, Quincy.
John Quincy Adams?
Yeah, it's here in Quincy, Massachusetts.
It's in Quincy, Mass. So I actually visited there because I went to an audition one time with one of the casting directors that used to have the casting office there. And I kind of went, walking around, and I was curious, and I ended up in that section, and it was pretty cool. For me, the movie, it was sad at times. It was funny. It had funny moments too. I don't know. It was okay. And if I had to, between my son and I were like, would you put this before the Fablemans or no? I'm like, Fablemans first. Amistad like way down there. Yeah. So it was okay. I wasn't thrilled about it. It was just meh. Just meh for me. Yeah.
All right. B, why don't you share your thoughts on Amistad?
Yeah, sure. Similar to Sam and Ellie here, I thought it was fine. Spielberg's a powerful storyteller, so I think he's just gonna be good at gripping you in and telling a story. That's not the issue with the film, but I think the pacing issue that you're talking about, Sam, for me was, who is this movie for? Like the whole time I was just like, I don't know who this movie is for, why it's Spielberg that's making this. And I know we want to separate the film from its history and its inaccuracies, but this is on the heels of The Color Purple, where Spielberg got flack for like, why are you telling The Color Purple in the 80s? Like he had already received this as criticism. And so now he has DreamWorks. He has his own studio. He could have lifted up another screenwriter or director to tell this story. And there's just elements of white saviorism that I think detract from it. I think this is the first film I've ever watched where the British are the good guys for some reason. It just, I think to that extent, it just made parts of the film feel really incongruous with this powerful story that he was trying to tell. Like he took this historical oddity that was La Amistad, tried to make it the star of the show, but couldn't really convey what it was. So you have people like Matthew McConaughey come in and they feel like they're in a different movie. John Williams, that was not the score for this movie. I thought it was totally dissonant and disconnected and took me out of the film 9 times out of 10. Yeah, I mean, it was filmed well. It was pretty to watch until it was harrowing to watch.
Yeah.
I think there are better stories on the subject.
I definitely hear that. I think, lastly, really quick for me, I would say the scenes for me aboard the Amistad or La Amistad were the most like gripping in the film, just because it was so visceral.
Yes.
And like,
yes.
And the great scene in the middle when he's like, tell us the story of how you got here, and you see him captured from his village and the horrific time, that was just like mind-blowing to me, because it didn't look like staged actors. I mean, it looked like it was literally like aboard the inside. I was like, my God, I can't imagine like filming that. So that to me is what lifts the movie. But I totally understand what you're saying, where the midsection in a lot of scenes, you're not quite sure who it's for. It's sort of about the government process, but it's like kind of slow moving political pageantry. And you're like, where's the thrust of this narrative?
Well,
even though you want them to get free, but yeah.
Totally. And the thing that like drives the narrative forward is the suffering of the people that Spielberg's trying to portray as heroes. And I think he is trying to make it like not only the white people in the film are heroes. I think he's failing, because the only way that we gain empathy for them is in the context of their suffering. That's the way that they're given dimension, and it's just...
But I can imagine being an extra of Afro-American descent and having to do those scenes, because as a person of color, doing those particular scenes has to be really hard and so close to your heart and to your ancestors. So I think it's, you do it because you want to also pay, do some kind of honor your ancestors. In that way. But do you guys know that the translator is also the main actor in 12 Years a Slave?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, I actually freaking love him.
Yeah,
it was so wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh my, he's such a baby face, and I think he's 20 years old.
He was up for playing Bond, or he was in that non sequitur, but he was in the running, and I was like, man, that would be awesome. Anyway,
that would be awesome.
Such a wonderful delight seeing him in this, and back then he was a nobody, but it was now seeing him in this was really cool. Yeah.
So don't ever say no to small roles, because there are no small roles.
That's right. And to that point about the translator, Spielberg really captured the Mende language and was like very serious about it being used on screen. And I think when he can you hear me?
Yeah.
Like very serious about when it was used on screen with subtitles and when it was unsubbed. But yeah, I thought that was great to have an actual West African language on the film.
Yep. Okay. I guess I'll just say that I echo almost everything that has been said already by the three of you. But I'd say my biggest complaint is that, well, I'll say what I love most about this. I agree. The scenes on the boat were gripping, harrowing. The opening scene was, I thought, fantastic, where Cinque is pulling that nail out with his fingers, and the lighting of that, where you just see flashes of, looks like a strobe effect on his face, and the whole uprising was, I thought, a great moment in this movie. And I was like strapped in, ready for this gripping movie, because I forgot almost everything about this film. I saw this, I think, when it came, I was working in a video store at the time when this came to home video. So I saw it that way, probably in 1998. So it's been quite some time, and this movie has completely escaped my memory. So I remember almost nothing except for Anthony Hopkins playing John Quincy Adams and Matthew McConaughey in this movie. So I forgot everybody else that was in this. So it's the roll call of the cast of characters and actors in this was amazing, seeing all these faces in this. But I also feel like this was a relay. You have Stellan Skarsgård in the beginning, and he kind of like passes off this to Matthew McConaughey, who passes this off to Anthony Hopkins, and they all take a back seat after the next person kind of like takes this over. It was a very oddly paced movie. The way that everybody kind of like passes it off and they take a back seat. I don't think Matthew McConaughey says a thing in the last third of this movie, so it's a very oddly structured film. Anthony Hopkins, he got nominated for Best Supporting Actor in this, which it's a bizarre role.
He did some serious staring.
He did, but I feel like he's not giving his best work at all. I mean, I've seen him in some great things, and to me, I think he's sleepwalking through this movie. Personally,
I just keep thinking of Paul Giamatti as John Quincy Adams in that HBO show. I'm like, man, I wish it was like old Paul Giamatti. I love Anthony Hopkins.
I found nothing all that compelling about his final speech, and I really don't. And I don't know. I found I didn't feel the uplifting, great rising moment that they wanted me to feel at the end of this with his speech. And I'm like, I don't know. It was not really doing it for me. I found nothing. He seemed bored to be in this movie to me. And literally, he's just like attending to his flowers for half this movie.
It's not the heavy makeup that they put on him to make him look older.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, now he really looks like that. So, I mean,
he does have a lot of pauses. He's like, well, and then
it was such a performance, and I was just kind of like, it. So, anyways, what else was it? So the thing that really was getting to me is that we have this story of Cinque and these slaves that were captured. I loved their story. Their uprising on the boat, but this whole movie is about the white men just, what are we going to do with these people? I did not care about this courtroom drama at all. I would have loved this movie to have been from the perspective of Cinque and his people. And I felt like they were just given such a short shrift in this movie. And I would have loved more about their backstory, more about their past, more about how they were captured as family, and had it been more their perspective. I don't think that they got a fair shake, their story in this movie.
They gave us a small window of their life in Africa, but that's about it.
I thought everything with their side of the story was fascinating. I did not care. I could have spent more time on the boat. I could have spent more time with them because I found all of that fascinating. It unnerved me. I mean, I didn't really love spending time seeing them being tortured and things like that, but I wanted to, because every time we saw a window into their lives and their past, I felt a connection to the movie and the storytelling going on. But I did not grab onto anything going on with all the lawyers talking and what in the courtroom drama at all. I found to be so conventional and cut out so much. Like the final courtroom decision, we only even got to hear one side of the argument, which I thought was weird.
You talk about like the how it passes on from character to character. I felt supporting characters too were underused. Like I thought Morgan Freeman had like nothing to do in the movie. I keep going back to Lincoln because I love Lincoln, but supporting cast members in Lincoln are given like characterizations and more screen time, and like James Spader in that movie is like seeking for votes for Lincoln, and there's these really sparked up kind of side scenes. I feel like the whole supporting cast in Amistad, Morgan Freeman included, just have a few scenes where they like dutifully talk about procedure. Or I did like Morgan Freeman's moment when he's like getting lost in the shackles and he has like a small panic attack.
That was a great moment.
Enough, but I wanted more of those. The people that populated the sides of this picture were kind of like pageantry. It's like, ladies and gentlemen, Pete Postlethwaite, As
you're saying that, Sam, it makes me realize this movie almost would have been better as a miniseries.
Yes, because it would have the time like that. This was a whole like season or like a limited miniseries, like an 8 episode. Like let's get into it,
like a Freeman episode.
Right.
You know,
first episode is the revolt, and it's like the whole episode's on board. You know, that'd be awesome. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
I don't know why 3/4 of this film was me watching people convince John Quincy Adams not to be racist.
That's a really good point.
I don't know why that was the movie.
I hear
really,
that.
You should care enough about this to argue this at court.
I also think that,
I didn't get that. I think I was more focused on the story of the main character, and just I truly enjoy this actor because he brings, without talking the language, that I understand the emotions.
I really kind of wonder how much Steven Spielberg was invested in this movie too, because this is really sandwiched between Lost World, and he must have been deep pre-production on Saving Private Ryan.
He did those 3 in a row, and that is a fact. I forgot about that. Those were 3 back-to-back productions. Yeah. And what you're saying is like, this is the middle movie, and his mind is like, oh, I can't wait to get to Normandy. All right, the courtroom scene. Okay, yeah.
So I kind of wonder, like, if the post-production editing, the whole part of that, he was off in France or who knows what, off on pre-production already. So I don't know, but that I've thought about that with how much was he really involved in post on this? Because again, when we're talking about like the score, we're talking about a lot of that side of this. I feel like it was just kind of not really tight, So
yeah, and I generally I like dialogue driven debate films, but there's something about this where it's fine. It just feels more like pageantry, and there's a bunch of scenes, and it's like you don't quite know what the focus is. I know what you're saying. It's just like it doesn't quite land, even though everything is shot well and sounds great.
I was just admiring the physique. I think I got lost in that. I got lost in that. Nothing else mattered to me after that.
But to your earlier point, Ellie, like the scenes where Simon is with like Anthony Hopkins and is quietly communicating with him, or where he's with his translator, like there's such power that was able to be brought out of these actors when they were silent, but all it did was make me want to see them more.
Or that time where the woman got the baby and she goes overboard, and there didn't have to be a dialogue. There doesn't have to be a dialogue, but it was just like the way she looked at him and he looked at her. It was like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. But
and there was that scene early in the movie where he's steering the ship and he's like up against the stars, and there's that amazing angle, and it's
I love that shot. Yeah.
Beautiful.
That was a great shot.
That was a great shot, but I feel like there was too few of those moments in this. That was a wonderful Spielberg flourish. I felt like this got a cinematography nomination. I don't know why, because I don't feel like there was much in this movie that really wowed me. Although I could say every single courtroom scene happened to be right at magic hour, so every single
I will say that, like, I don't know about cinematography, but I did like the production design where, like, when they used the State House in Providence for like Washington. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I noticed that in a lot of these scenes, I thought the production design, what they did a great job was like take real places like in New England or around the Northeast, film an angle where you only see the historical buildings, populate it with extras in the background. Like, I felt like the feeling of 1839, I thought they did a good job. I thought they were clever about, they had not a small budget, but you could tell that it was like contained. But what they did focus on, I really liked the way it looked a lot. I just wish the midsection of the film was more compelling, because it's like they're on the boat. It's intense. It's incredible. It's emotional, and they get captured, and it's like the movie just cools down, and you're just like,
never reaches that intensity again.
Explain to me why does the camera twice at the very beginning and towards the end always focuses on that one guard?
On the who? Sorry, what shot?
The guard. There's a guard that the camera really focuses on at the beginning, and then at the very end again. What's his point? What's the point of that?
I'm trying to remember.
Do you guys remember? There's a guard at the very end.
Is he on the ship, or is he in a? Is it like a?
No, he's in the land. He's the jail.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, there's one particular guard that this camera focuses on twice in the movie. Once at the beginning when they're putting them in the jail, and then at the very end when he's talking to the translator just by himself.
Oh wow, I don't know. I got to see that
Eagle eyes,
again
Ellie.
because
You know,
I'm not sure.
I don't
Maybe he
remember.
was trying to like give a
that
smaller
camera
character a
cuts
moment or something. Yeah.
that camera cuts to that particular guard, and I'm thinking that I'm waiting to see what's gonna happen with that particular guard. Is he gonna try to hurt our main character? Is that why? But nothing happened, and then at the very end, again, when he's in the cell, the translator is in the cell with the main character, just them two talking. The camera cuts to that same guard again, and I'm thinking, is he gonna come into the cell and like, I don't know, hurt them or something? But nothing happened.
I wonder if there was a cut scene or something.
I don't know. It just
That could
twice
be, yeah.
that same guy, and I think he's part of the top cast too. If
I got to check that out again.
I'm serious. I think it's. So I'm just waiting for this guard to like start havoc in the movie, but then nothing happens.
I kind of remember this, but I forgot all about it. So,
Yeah, it's kind of like a very quick thing. Maybe he's somebody's son or something.
I don't know. There was one other weird decision that was made that maybe you guys have some thoughts on. Did you notice the one time they used where they gave a character a title, like a graphic that came up for David Paymer's character, which I thought was interesting. John Forsythe, right?
Oh yeah.
Why is he the only one that gets that?
Didn't John Quincy Adams get that as well?
Did he?
I thought I remember there being two titles. Someone else got a title somewhere. I mean,
the movie
random,
starts off with like John Forsythe. Was he what's his role in this? But I feel like they set this precedent where they were going to like give like who these people were. But why did they just list off one or two people and nobody else? I thought that was just a bizarre little moment. That's
kind of random.
But.
Yeah.
Secretary of State. Van Buren? Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Secretary of State under Van Buren. Thank you. So, anyways.
I thought that scene when Van Buren was like at the dinner table and he was, I think it was him, the president, and he was like saying how he wanted it to go to the Supreme Court or making some speech at that really formal dinner. That was a really slow, like I was like, what is the point of this scene? Sorry. Yeah.
Anyways, I think
it was the only time we'd really. Oh, sorry. It was the only time we'd really seen the opposition's mechanics, and it was just a weird place to throw that in. I also didn't like that.
It was weird. It was like, what? Yeah, it's just like a weird. Yeah.
It was weird, and this is a really nerdy thing, but I didn't like that they had Van Buren campaigning because that just didn't happen back then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just like, this is weird. Okay.
But that was supposed to be Van Buren in that scene, right? With the Southern accent at the dinner table and that and he was talking. That was him or not? No.
I blacked out.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The eyes glazed over at that point.
That was the one.
Yeah,
like
I might have looked at my watch at that point.
I had a grip on like every single scene. I like knew what they were talking about. That one scene, I was like, wait a minute, what is he? What is this? Like, I just didn't quite understand.
So I was looking at the Wikipedia like cast list here, not Wikipedia, but like Google cast list. Jeremy Strong is in this movie somewhere. I was trying to find him.
Yes, that's him. That's at the very end. I think that's him. Jeremy Strong. Isn't it?
From Secession? I was trying to find where is he?
No.
That's who I'm talking about. He's in this movie.
No, there's another one.
He must have been like a kid.
I did like that scene when the gunships like blew up the slave fortress at the very, very end. It looked like a miniature.
Oh, that was such a cheesy little bookend.
It was. I just liked the shot. Again, I liked the shots and the way it looked, but like narratively, it was like
it looked like it was such a miniature.
It was a miniature, but it was just like a nice. It was like a Spielberg Saturday afternoon miniature or something like that. I don't know how to explain it.
So I think that crystallizes weirdly my main takeaway from this, which is like it's a really well-made movie, and you can sit down and kind of turn your brain off and watch this movie, which is a weird thing to say. considering the subject matter, but like, who would choose this as their movie to do that with?
Right. Yeah.
There's some moments like that where there's like shots at humor in this that I think just don't land very well either. I think that's a moment in this where it's like like that's supposed to like there's a little like one liner at the end where the general says like, yes, the fort does not exist after all. It's like, is that supposed to be a joke? Is this funny? You know? And then there's the shot. Then there's the thing about like vice presidents or something like that, or I forget what it was. That is it Stellan Skarsgård makes the quip or something like that? I forget who. No, it's the other guy in the room that is a known actor that I can't think of right now that has like one line.
Was it David Paymer?
No, it's there's so many actors in this movie. Like I was saying before we started that this is like almost on the JFK level of cast. It was Xander Berkeley. Xander Berkeley's in this movie, who has no lines at all in the first scene he's in, which was just bizarre. Because I thought this is post a couple. He was a known actor then. This is 97. He's not a nobody yet, but he's an entire scene and he has no lines at all. He's at like some high scale party or something like that. Says nothing, and then he has a line about like former presidents that are forgotten or something like that. I forget what the line is, but it just like does not land. And I wasn't talking about you, Mr. President, or something like that.
Yeah, it's just kind of like her. I know that's the perfect last. Like the comedy in this film is like brr.
So, well, Steven Spielberg not really known for his comedy, and he should probably stay away from the comedy, Mr. Spielberg. All right, I think we've had a good conversation about Amistad. But before we shut the book on this movie, we have a little segment that we're introducing to the show. And basically, if we had to recast one of the roles in this movie with Mark Wahlberg, who would it be? Sam?
Matthew McConaughey. Just plug him in there and just have him give his take on that character. I think it could be really, really interesting.
It would be
no offense
amazing.
to Matthew. It would just be a different energy there.
Oh, this is obviously to the movie's credit or detriment. It does not matter. You know, it's just the movie.
It'd be funny if it wasn't Mark Wahlberg like trying to be in that time. If he was playing his character as like a cop from or if he was like Dirk Diggler or something in that movie and like just not like completely tonally wrong, but saying the lines, that would be amusing.
I love it. I want to see that.
Be bizarre indeed.
Anyone else want to go down this road?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
put him in Anthony Hopkins' role.
I love that. I want him to do the big speech at the end. I might stay awake for it.
That's the thing. It's like everyone, all characters pontificate too much in this movie. There's too much courtroom pontificating where they have those moments where they're like, well,
I'm not a smart man, but
I'm not a smart man, but I have something to say, and I'm going to say it. And then John Williams is like, yes. You know, I love John Williams. It's just a weird. This movie.
This isn't his best work.
No, he has a great. I like the theme song that goes along with the Amistad, but there are moments again in the middle of the movie that's just like, for me.
B, would you?
I would replace Anna Paquin with Mark Wahlberg.
That'd be funny if him jumping on the bed at the end when it's like
right. I would not change the age at all. I would just make him throw temper tantrums. And demand large breakfasts as queen.
Mark, if you're listening, we don't mean any harm.
No, he's honored by this.
He's listening. He's like, don't let him into Wahlburgers.
I did work with Mark on set, by the way. So
nice.
I would definitely replace. No offense to David Paymer, but I would put him as Secretary of State. I just think that
It would be
not too big a
funny to
role, but
He's short enough. So.
yeah. David Paymer is a great character actor. Love to work with him sometime, but yeah. And of course, the best of all worlds would be for Mark Wahlberg to play all 4 of those roles.
David Paymer really does have very little to do in this movie. Let's be honest. He's like,
but
he's all dressed up, and he's like, I'm in a Spielberg movie, and he's like he's on the left hand side. He's amazing. He's a great actor.
He steals the scenes.
In this movie, he doesn't have anything to do. He's like, he's either on the left hand side of the frame, or he's on the right hand side of the frame, and he's like talking, and it's like, and now we pan
he's
the camera.
killing it.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's awesome. Everyone is underused. Yeah.
David Paymer looks exactly like my PCP.
I'd rather watch him again in City Slickers because.
And I have a crush on my PCP.
Right. Do you, by extension, have a crush on David Paymer? Because I can get behind that.
Oh no.
It was funny. I thought she was going to say yes. I was not expecting that.
Just me. Just me.
All right. All right. Excellent. Okay, let's close the book on Amistad.
That's fine.
If I had a sound effect for closing books, that would be my thing now.
Sir.
What?
Are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Well, have you heard anything about either one of them?
I find it's best to stay out of other people's affairs.
You mean you haven't heard anybody say anything about either one of these?
Nope.
Well, what about these two?
Oh, they suck.
All right, let's get to our recommendation shelf, which is features this week films about either emancipation or abolitionism or human trafficking. We left this wide open. Who would like to begin with their recommendation this week?
I'll go. The Sound of Freedom.
Oh, okay. That's a new one that just came out. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Was that that was kind of a controversial little movie this summer? Tell us about it, Ellie.
It was by Alejandro Gomez Monteverde, Mexicano. He used to be an actor for a long time in soap operas, and the whole movie controversy is that the major studios, major stream places like Netflix and Prime did not want to show the movie, so for a while they couldn't show it, and Disney owned the rights, and then they had to buy it back from Disney, and then they just didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to put it out there, and Angel Studios decided to put it out the 4th of July. Though the director told Angel Studios CEO that he was crazy to put it out on 4th of July. And the movie gained audience just by word of mouth. What a great way to market a movie, because it surpassed the Raiders of the Lost Ark. No, that's not the movie. That movie that came out, the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, Dial of Destiny.
Yeah.
It surpassed in monetary, in money, and they didn't expect that, but because TikTok was a major platform where everybody told everybody, go see this film, go see it, and it became huge. So everything was word of mouth. I actually got tickets for some people who couldn't afford it to go see it. I bought the tickets for some of my friends that couldn't afford to go see it.
So before you haven't actually said anything about the movie yet, but I have to say one thing. So interesting is there are a lot of people so a lot of the reason for the success of the film were because what you just said, people were buying tickets for family, friends that couldn't see it. A lot of people bought tickets to see this movie that actually didn't go to the movie, as well as what I've been reading as well, which is interesting. So I thought that was it's another side of the coin in this whole thing here, which I think is interesting. I don't know. I will admit I'm a little conflicted on what this all means.
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't heard that. But then again, I don't go
Because
around
it
reading.
became like a viral thing for people. You must go see this movie. It's important.
Yeah.
And I have no knowledge of the movie itself, the quality of it or whatnot. And
It
I
was.
know the lead actor I have some opinions on, but besides that, people bought tickets to this. Whether or
Yeah.
not people could go to see it or friends could see it, and it made this crazy amount of money in a couple of weeks. And I just find
So
that it's interesting.
so what they
But go
did
ahead.
is they were asking for donations to buy tickets. So they had like a section in their website in Angel Studios where um anyone could get free tickets to go see that movie. So people like myself will buy tickets, donate them to the Angel Studios for that particular movie, and not to the Angel Studios, but to the movie itself. And so basically, what happened is a lot of people were buying tickets. Um, I think I'm frozen. Hello. So a lot of people were buying tickets and just putting them in this sort of free side, and anyone can apply to get free tickets to go see the movie, anyone that couldn't afford it. So the movie itself was well done, because for me it didn't show anything that was really harsh, which thank God, because I didn't want to see anything that was really harsh, any little girls in any bad situation. But what the movie does is it does shows you like what happens to these children when they are kidnapped and sold into human trafficking. We're talking about, Amistad, and slavery is still happening even today. Slavery is still happening, especially children slavery. It's a
Yeah.
thing, and a lot of people don't want to hear about it. Before The Sound of Freedom came out, I've been involved with human trafficking, and I donate to human trafficking companies who are in charge of finding these children. So before this movie came out, I'm already part of this. This is one of my main. Everybody has something that they want to give money to, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
Your
an
pet cause.
organization, a cause. Well, this is like my number one cause, in saving children, and because of that, a lot of what I earn, part of that goes to organizations that are freaking fighting the system and doing their best to get these children back home. Because the thought of, you know, now I have a 12-year-old niece. The thought of something happening to my niece and never seeing her again, because someone kidnapped her and sold her to slavery, to sex slavery at that. It just I have to do something, you know. So
Unthinkable.
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so that's for me. When this movie came out, I didn't even know about the movie. I really didn't until I heard on TikTok, and I started searching more about it, and I was like, whoa, you know. And I just recently learned that the president of my country has signed a sort of a contract with this director, to end human trafficking around the world himself too. So it's really cool to hear that the own president of my own country is involved in this, and 95% of people don't want to hear it, don't want to deal with it. They don't care. They don't care until something happens to their own children, and that's when they care. Well, I care about all the children in the world, and I'll be damned if I just sit here and I do something about it. So yeah, part of my earnings go into that fund for the organization that I help raise money with, so that they can, you know, end human trafficking, because this is a form of slavery.
Yeah.
And these children, as young as 5 years old, 5-year-old boys and girls, are being sold to billionaires around the world for sex.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you imagine a 5-year-old in,
Disgusting.
in that position? I
Disgusting.
can't conceive of it. And this is very real. So a lot of people were against it. It became about, it's a right-wing movie. I don't know. I don't get into politics. I don't really care. I care about the children. So whether the main actor in the movie, it's right wing, whatever. I don't care. It was really well done. Um, I just I saw it because it's something that a cause that's dear to my heart. So that's basically it. Did I recommend it to my friends? I did. Did I buy tickets for some of my friends? I did. Go see it. And they did. They went to see it.
Good.
And they came back and they were like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm like, good. I'm glad that you went to go see it. So if you haven't seen it, I don't know if it's still playing in theaters. And I don't know that it's going to be playing in streaming applications like Netflix or anything like that, because they don't want it.
It'll be well, at the very least, it'll be on video on demand everywhere.
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, well, because people will buy it. There is a huge market for this movie. So it will find its home. Who would like to go next?
Sam.
So I would recommend, just because, and this is maybe kind of like an easy, obvious choice, but because we've been talking about Spielberg and because we've been reviewing Amistad, I am going to strongly recommend Lincoln, because similar subject matter, but I think of the two films, it is the vastly superior film. I would put Lincoln as one of my top Steven Spielberg films of all of them. I think it has everything that this movie doesn't in terms of just storytelling, focus, and the inner workings of the White House and him trying to abolish slavery and the political setbacks of that. The way the movie is directed, it feels like you're literally on a fly on the wall inside of the White House, and you're literally watching like Lincoln in his real personal life. It feels very authentic. So strong recommendation to that film. And lastly, I'll say a friend of mine who's a cinematographer saw that movie and said, I thought it was okay, but Spielberg's camera angles were very plain and like muted, and like a lot of the shots were just on sticks and tripods, and it was very standard looking. I disagree. I thought Spielberg actually, his under direction worked greatly in the favor of the movie, because he didn't have like overly stylistic storytelling kind of signature Spielberg moments. And I actually, for some reason, thought it actually helped Lincoln, because Lincoln, everything about it, I just felt like I was there and I was watching history. And every single courtroom scene in that film breathes with life and the reality of the weight of what they're dealing with. It feels much less like a movie and more like it's like the camera went back in time and actually recorded what was happening. So huge recommendation for Lincoln. That would be mine.
Great. Oh, awesome. All right. B, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I wanted to recommend Daughters of the Dust, which is Julie Dash's seminal movie. It's incredible. There are lots of articles and writings on it, including writings that Julie's done and co-written with other incredible artists about the film, that can tell you a little bit more context around it. But essentially, it's about a family that's on an island off the coast of Georgia that it was full of formerly enslaved people, and the family now has several generations past that, but it's how the family is grappling with the pain of remembering and honoring that memory and staying true to their West African roots, or moving, and just how that's carried through generations. The film absolutely is so ethereal and dreamlike and lightly done, and it's just so beautiful and lyrical to watch. And you're so invested in these characters, and they're dealing with real issues of race and of history, but everyone in that film is just so fully developed as a person. And it's just such an important film in the context of cinema. It's the first film in the US that was shown theatrically that was filmed by a Black woman. Huge. I just think, and it was released in 1992. Like,
oh my God. Yeah.
This is not an old film. So I think it's necessary viewing for people who want to learn about movies. And I think if you're interested in this subject matter, you should hear it from someone like Julie Dash. I think she's the right storyteller, where Spielberg was the wrong storyteller for this.
All right. Great recommendation. Yeah. My pick this week, it's a little bit of a stretch with our theme, but I'm going with the 2004 documentary Born into Brothels. So this is sort of about human trafficking, but it's basically about these a documentarian that follows the lives of these 8 children who are the children of prostitutes that live in Calcutta in the red light district. Their mothers have lived in this. They live in these horrible conditions, obviously, and she is trying to. The woman, the director Zaina Brisky, is trying to basically bring these kids to trying to get them into a boarding school, but also bring art into their lives through photography. And this movie has wrecked me. I've seen this before. I rewatched this past week because it's been a while, and I saw this about 10 years ago, but I forgot a lot about it. But it's such I don't know how to describe it. I cried watching this again because seeing these kids, what they have to deal with is it's just so sad. And seeing how some of them, they're not going to get out of this life. And even it's like just trying to swim against the tide, trying to help these children. And it's not, and in this one best documentary in the 2005 Academy Awards, it's hard to even talk about because it's a very, very difficult subject, but fantastic movie. It's all done with these lo-fi cameras, and the kids are just so, despite the conditions that they live in, when they start talking about how passionate they are about photography, they're just full of smiles, and they kind of forget about their life. And not to spoil much, but one of them does make it out, and he actually is a working cinematographer, and he's worked on movies in New York City. So it is, there is the silver lining to some of this, but it's a harrowing tale, but really needs to be seen. And revisiting this movie was very difficult, but it is worth checking out. So that's Born into Brothels, and it's available. I think it's on Tubi. Might be also be on Canopy or one of those other ones like Hoopla, but it's fantastic. So that is what I recommend this week. So last little thing. Let's try to do this quickly, as fast as we can. We're going to knock out our top 3 summer movie highlights. And we don't have to really get into deep insight into these 3 things, but I want each of us just to mention, since we've been gone for the last 2 months, what are the 3 things that we look most fondly on over this past summer, as far as movies that we saw in the theater or at home, or like I said, your favorite flavor of slushie? I don't care what it is. Ellie, how about you go
Spider-Man,
first?
the cartoon one.
So Spider-Man was a highlight.
I need to see that.
The verse.
Wasn't that like last May?
That's kind of like summer, but
we reviewed that on the show in May, but I'll let it go. I'll let it go.
But that's my favorite movie of this year in summer, so I count May as kind of summerish anyway, because doesn't
it had summer blockbuster numbers.
Starts in like May 31st anyway, so it's summer.
That's fine.
Still summer. May 31st begins summer. So so that's one of my favorite movies that I've seen, and I loved everything about it. So I don't have a favorite scene. I enjoyed every single scene. And then Oppenheimer, because obviously for obvious reasons, Nolan, the GOAT, number 1. And so I freaking love Nolan. I love Nolan. Okay, so my favorite scene in that movie, it's everything about the movie I love. But I have to call Emily Blunt's scene when she's in the court in that room. Oh man, power to the girl. She brought it, and she totally did. And that's because it's such a manly film as well, right? It's a very male derived film, but to see a woman stand up and just told, I was like, you tell them, girl. That's it. That's how you stand up, girl. That's right. I love that. It just got me like my blood rushing. And then the other movie that's my favorite movie that I saw this summer, obviously Mission Impossible. My favorite scene is when he's on the motorcycles, because I freaking love motorcycles. I was practically born in a motorcycle. Yeah, I was born in a motorcycle. My dad brought me from the motorcycle, from the hospital, like as soon as I was born, like by the second day in a motorcycle to my house. Dude, my dad is a daredevil. But my favorite scene is just him going off that cliff. And I'm like, yes. Okay, that's it.
I didn't get a chance to see Mission Impossible yet. I know about the stunt. Don't worry. It's hard to avoid that. I missed it. I think I was traveling so much in July. I missed quite a bit that month.
Yep.
All right. Sam, hit me up with 3 things.
So I would say, in terms of 3 like movies / entertainment this summer, one would definitely be Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. I liked it a lot. I liked the pacing. Thought it felt that the director McHugh went actually back to kind of a Brian De Palma style for this movie, like recalling the first film. That was cool. I liked Oppenheimer a lot, and honestly, there is so much I didn't see this summer. I have not seen Barbie yet, which I've got to see. I'm going to correct that. So that might have been on the list, but because there's a lot of movies I haven't seen.
We don't have the rights to that song, okay?
Oh no, we're in violation. But lastly,
neither does Mattel, so it's fine.
In order to fill the deficit of third place, because I do have to pick 3. It's not a movie, but Winning Time: The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty on HBO. It's now in its second season. Show is so incredible. I like basketball just fine, but I'm not a huge sports guy. But this show is like John C. Reilly as Jerry Buss, Jason Segel as Paul Westhead, Quincy Isaiah as Magic Johnson, Adrian Brody is in it, Jason Clarke is hilarious, Jillian Jacobs. The cast is just amazing. The show is amazing. The drama is amazing, and I'm hooked. And I've been like watching season 2 intently. It's Sunday nights on HBO. I can't wait for the next one. So that's my 3. The third one would have been a movie probably if I'd seen more films this summer, but alas, I did not.
Well, hopefully now that the podcast is back, you'll see more films, Sam.
Yes.
Okay. All right. B, what do you got?
Barbie and the Bomb. That was the best double feature. I was so glad that it happened and that it got people back into the theaters and that people were just so psyched for it. It was totally worth it. I thought they were both excellent, obviously in different ways, but Barbie was just so fun and so on point and so great, just such a good feeling. And I think my favorite parts of Oppenheimer were when we got to see inside of Cillian Murphy's mind, like in his mind's eye, when Nolan got a little interpretive with it. I just like that style of filmmaking more. I thought that was more interesting than some of the other stuff in the film, but I thought it was beautiful. And then my third one,
me and Sam, I think saw Oppenheimer in IMAX, not at the same time, but his eye was so big, we actually could have walked into his eyeball.
Yeah. I drove down to Providence to see it in 70 millimeter and IMAX, and it was just gorgeous to look at. They both were. Barbie and Oppenheimer were both just beautiful to watch. And then my third one is the 20th anniversary release of Old Boy by Park Chan-wook.
That's awesome.
Was so much fun to go to the theater. I love going to see just like film nerds packing into an AMC, on like a Wednesday night. It was really fun. And God, that movie holds up. It's just as twisted. It's just as weird. It's just as fun. Yeah.
I want to ask you.
I wish it were still running.
I watched that movie, but I watched the whole Vengeance trilogy at the same time. Have you seen the other ones with it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's
it's pretty messed up.
really enjoy his films. I was really late to this party, but I actually just watched The Handmaiden, and that was also great.
Ooh, that's
yeah.
The what?
That's
The
very good.
Handmaiden?
Yeah. The Handmaiden. Oh my God, Ellie, you gotta come over.
What's that about?
It's messed up. It's messed up, but it's like super strong female characters in it. Yeah, I can't tell you too much of what it's about because there's a twist.
I love
there's
twists
like several twists
in movies. My favorite thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I'm gonna tell my son. I'm gonna have to prove my son wrong because he said that people who go his word.
Watch it with your son.
No,
it'll be interesting.
Oh my God. And my son said that.
That'll be on the next podcast. We're gonna film that. Just kidding.
My son says, "Mom, people that go watch Barbie could never go see Oppenheimer."
Why is
because he feels like
true.
people who go so he basically says Oppenheimer, you have to have a certain kind of intellect to understand the film, and Barbie people are like Barbie people. They can't have the intellect to see Oppenheimer.
I think Barbie had more to say than Oppenheimer did.
I agree.
Just told it in a really nice way.
All right.
Oh, that's funny.
He's funny like that. Sometimes he just likes to push buttons.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's two. You got one more, or was that the three? Barbie and
Barbie and Oppenheimer
Okay,
kind of go together.
Okay.
But I will say, if I can make a plug for the thing I want to see in theaters that came out is Bottoms. That's playing at Coolidge Corner Theater.
Oh, it's Coolidge Corner. I want to see Bottoms too. Marshawn Lynch is in that football player. I thought was hysterical. So yeah, I hear Bottoms is really good. I hear it's really good. I do want to see it.
I hear it's great, and I loved Shiva Baby.
Yes,
like Shiva Baby was my uncut gems. So in terms of like stress level,
Shiva Baby was great.
I had no idea what you guys
Shiva
are talking
Baby
about.
was so good.
No idea.
Oh man. If you want some like super stressful family dynamics,
I do not want it.
Okay.
Nope. I'm good.
That's fair.
Watch some Edward Schultz movies. That'll give you some stress too. That reminds me of
oh boy.
That's what's the one where he Krisha? That reminds me. Krisha and Shiva Baby are great back-to-back family stress movies. Where it's just like all family get together, just like one bad thing happens after another at the dinner table. You know, it's great.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I will just say my three things. I also echo Barbie, which was one of my favorites of the summer. I just think it, like you
perfect
said,
film.
It was near perfect. But I loved it. I go around referring to my home as the
Mojo Doja Casa
Mojo Doja Casa house. That's what I live in now.
I have to see it. I can't stop circling pop culture. I have to know. I've got to see the movie. I'm just uninformed.
Yes.
It's unacceptable. I will fix that. Yeah.
Playing push all the time. You know, it's just so so rich. It's so rich with things going on. And I think, like as B says, it has so much to say. And it is a feminist movie, but you know, I don't think it necessarily is. It just has, I think, it has such a commentary on so many things about male and female. So I don't know, and I can't talk about it because Sam, you haven't seen it. We got to talk when
we'll discuss it.
We'll discuss it.
I think it could have leaned harder into feminism.
Yeah.
Fascinating non sequitur that has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Nathan, after you give your ending speech, we'll be exactly at the 1 hour and 17-minute mark, which happens to be the exact running length of the 1990 Disney film, The Rescuers Down Under.
Excellent.
Barbie's the kind of movie that you go see and you bring a cake or cupcakes that are frosted with pink frosting. Yum. Oh, it would be delicious.
So,
you know, they're already taking pre-orders on Weird Barbie.
We.
You can buy your Weird Barbie. It's coming out, I think, in March. You got to wait a while, but we missed it. The kids wanted one. but we didn't get it. Anyways,
back in my day, you had to work for your weird Barbie.
What the heck is a weird Barbie?
They're making
What's a weird Barbie?
Kate McKinnon's character, Kate McKinnon.
In the movie?
With where they like cut all her hair off and she's always in the splits.
Oh, she's cute.
Yeah.
She's
all
adorable.
Right. Let me just plug my last two things. I also saw, by the way, I want to say there are a lot of things I like this summer, but I'm just going to mention these because they haven't been mentioned yet. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I had such a blast with this movie. By the way, I hadn't really seen the original, like back in the 90s turtle movies that much.
I was going to say, the 1990 film is so incredible.
But I watched them.
really like the 90s
watched
movies,
them.
though.
The first one, I actually thought was pretty well done. Then I watched
awesome.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, which is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Then I saw this one, the Mutant Mayhem, which I thought was
it good? I haven't seen it yet.
You still have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, the 1993
I'm getting to it.
movie.
I'm getting to it. And I really want to see the ones that came out like 10 years ago or 8 years ago. I want to watch all of these now. The Turtles was a little bit after I kind of aged out of that. I was probably in my mid-late teens when they became popular. So it wasn't really a big fan of them at the time, but I kind of wish it was in my wheelhouse in my time, but I kind of really dug this movie. So that's all I'll really say about it. I love the animation style of it. It was very inspiring. So the other thing I'll mention that I really liked, I saw a movie from Nicole Hofstetter called You Hurt My Feelings. One of my favorite indie directors right now. She did a movie a couple years ago, which was one of my favorites from that year. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Anyways, well, I'm going to spoil the basic plot of this movie because I'm guessing nobody else has seen this yet. But I love this movie, but not for the reasons you'd expect. It actually made me quite uncomfortable because it forced me to reckon with my age, my place in life, and basically in my life in general. It's about a married couple. The wife is played by Julie Louis-Dreyfus. She is a novelist, and her first book is a memoir that was just published. And her husband is a therapist, and he's kind of questioning his purpose in life. He doesn't really, he's not really connecting with his patients, but there is a point in the movie where he is caught in a white lie, just an innocent little white lie. But Julie Louis-Dreyfus' character, Beth, doesn't know if she can really forgive him for this lie, and everything kind of unravels from that point. But it really is a great look at married life and relationships, and I really found myself connecting with this movie a lot. And I really loved it. Enough said. That is the movie that came out. James Gandolfini in a very rare kind of like romantic comedy, almost like dramedy role. So good. One of his last roles he did, but such a different role from like Tony Soprano. So good. I would have loved to have seen him do more of those types of movies if he was still with us. But yes, You Hurt My Feelings, which was I thought fantastic. So that is the other thing that I just wanted to point out from the summer that I really, really liked. So those are our top 3 summer movie highlights, everyone. So there you go. So that is our show. And we hope that you come back next week. We are going to be reviewing the next movie in our Steven Spielberg retrospective, and it's going to be 1971's Duel, his first movie. It was originally, Sam, am I correct? It was a TV movie.
Movie that got theatrical release later on, and maybe like a re-edit because it was so successful they like put it in theaters. Yeah.
Great. I am looking forward to that because I saw this maybe 18 years ago. It has been quite some time. I don't think, Sam, you've seen this, B or Ellie? Have you seen this?
Oh, no, not at all.
All right. So we thank you for tuning in this week. Back to the Frame Rate is part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. You can email us directly at backtotheframerate@gmail.com. Hit us up on Facebook and Instagram at Back to the Frame Rate. And of course, the best way of helping us out is to share our episodes on your social media feeds. Spread the word. Woo! All right, until next week.
I want you to know it's over.
Well, bye.